Righto guys, I'll try to describe how we're going to make the handle for the can crusher. Now, the first thing that we're going to do will be to create just one side of the can crusher handle. And so to do that, I'm going to need to turn it down to 10mm and come across 7. So if I have about 25mm of stock hanging out of the chuck, that should give me plenty of room to come across 7, make an index, and then turn it down to our 10mm, which is what I'm reading from here. So I'll do my best. I haven't really done any lathe filming before, so we'll see how this goes. I might have to move the camera around a little bit, but I'll try and talk you through what I'm doing to begin with. So I've just got the rough end of my stock is going to be sticking out. I've just cut this on the horizontal bandsaw. And on your plan, I've said for you guys to cut it 160mm long, so that's going to leave us a nice little bit of waste. I'm running the lathe at 900 RPM, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come across now, and I'm just taking off enough material. Hopefully you can see this all right. Okay, so I've just cleaned up my stock there, and you probably haven't seen too much with my filming. I'm just trying to figure out how to do this, to be honest. That's probably not the best angle either. We'll go back to here. Okay, so I've cleaned that up. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to zero the machine off on my hand feed wheel here. So I'm just going to zero that off to 0. Okay, and I've pulled this back after I've cleaned up, so that's now at 0. So if I go across 7mm that way now by using this dial, I should be able to index the shoulder for that first part. So I'm just going to go across now 7mm. So here, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, that's now reading 7, and I had it zeroed off. So all I'm going to do with the lathe, that's better. I'm just going to come in now. And I'm going to mark that shoulder. And so I've just taken the tool in until I've got to the square part of the tool, and that should now be 7mm from where I cleaned the face up over to that shoulder. So you need to bring it all the way in until you can just fit a bit of paper in between there and the tool post. You don't want it scrubbing on this, and that will give you your 7mm. What I can now do is I can keep machining to that shoulder and bring it down to 10mm. Rightio. Just for the purpose of filming, guys, I have moved this stock a little bit further out of the chuck just to get it away from this acrylic. So worth noting that you don't need it sticking out this far, and I wouldn't mind it in a little bit further, just to make it more stable. So I just showed you how to come across 7 and index that. I know after measuring this bar that it's 25mm. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to touch off on this surface here. I'll then zero off my cross slide, and then I need to work my way down to 10mm. So I've got to take off 15mm. So I won't talk you through every little step of that, and I'll probably speed this part of the video up. But let's see how we go. I'm going to take that across until it just touches. So just touching there. I'd now zero this off. You need to hold the back of the handle, so hold the back of the handle and twist this. Okay, so I'm now on 0 on the metric scale. And I'll speed the video up from this point, but I'm just going to take off 1.5 mil at a time until I've removed 15. Once I've removed, but I'll stop probably where I've done about 14, and I'll just double check that I haven't miscounted or anything, so I'll measure it with the verniers, and then I'll do my final cut. Okay, so I'll hopefully get that to focus. So I'm reading 11 now on this, which is really good. So that means my machine's running really accurately. So what I will do is I'll just take off another millimetre now, and then that will get me down to my 10 mil that's required. The next thing you'll do is you'll do a tool change, and you'll put our circlip cutter on. Now hopefully you can see this. What I'm aiming to do is where my fingernail is, I want that to be flush. So I'm actually getting caught on it at the moment, so I need to move the machine across a little bit. A bit tricky because I'm using my left hand to hold the iPad, but I'll move that across so that's flush. Once that's flush, I'll then zero off the machine and move it across 1 millimetre in that direction. So I'm going to make it flush and then go across 1 millimetre, and that's as per the plans. And then I'll do my cut in 1 millimetre. Let's take a look at what that will look like. I might even speed that up for you. That's better. That 1 mil groove for my circlip to go onto. There's a slight burr there where I'm rubbing my thumb. I'll just touch that slightly. I can even use this cutter and put like a 1/2 mil chamfer on there that you won't even see, but just to get rid of that sharpness. I'm then also going to take a where is it, center drill, and I'll put a center drill into this end. Rightio. So you can see I've taken the center drill, not all the way to the end of the flute. So that's what we want. We don't want to go past where that taper ends. So I'm just going to about where my fingernail is there and creating the cone shape. That will be perfect for my live center to go in to steady this piece up. Next thing I'm going to do, and it's pretty hard to do it through the iPad, but I'll just demonstrate roughly how I would do it. I'm going to get a smaller ruler, and what I want to do is I want to find from this shoulder that I've just created 120 mil, and yeah, that looks a little bit out. Like I said, I'm trying to do this through the iPad, but you're going to measure that as accurately as you can. You'll have a much better time than me because you won't be trying to film it, and you want to put an indexing mark there. We're then going to create another shoulder there. Now, if I just grab the plan, what I'm trying to achieve is I've created one side, which is here. I'm now going 120 mil from that shoulder, and I'm marking this line here. Not worrying about the chamfers yet. I'll do them after I've knurled. So I'm just trying to find that 120 mil shoulder to shoulder. You can already see there's going to be a bit of waste here, which comes in really handy later on for holding our job, and that's worth noting in your journal as well. So there you go. I'm lining up so that I'm on the waist side of that shoulder, so this side of that shoulder line. I'm actually going to use the circlip tool just to identify that shoulder because it just does a really nice square little cut, and then I'll switch back over and I will turn this down to 10 mil. Okay, so I've now made one of those ends, which is in the the chuck at the moment, and I've created this end, except the only difference being I have, now this will be interesting drawing through the camera, I have made that longer than it needs to be. The worst drawing you've seen all day, but you get the idea. I've made it longer than it needs to be. What I need to do now is I need to identify where that groove lies. So I know overall that's going to end up 7mm. They give me that one. They give me that it's 1mm left on, and I know it's a 1mm gap, which will mean that from the shoulder to the start of that groove shoulder there will be 5mm. So I'm going to do that by just using the circlip cutting tool, making it flush with this shoulder, zeroing off my machine and travelling across 5mm, and then I'll come in 1mm. I'll try and capture what that looks like. Rightio, my video didn't quite work before, but I can just talk to this picture and I'll be able to show you what's happening. So this was in the chuck, reverse the other way, and what we were doing, we were offsetting our 5mm, cutting in with our circlip cutter. While I was there, I turned the machine another 2mm in that direction, which gives me now 7mm from that edge to there, which is what I want, and I put in just that second little line there, and all that is just a reference for me for when I part off this piece here. I don't want to go too deep because I don't want to weaken the part, but it's just a reference mark. Rightio, so I'll just touch off, sort my cutting depth out, and then I'll show you how to engage the auto feed and to let the cut run. Okay, so I'm just going to turn it on manually. So that's my 1/4 mil cut. I'm going to check my feed. So for a cleanup I need an E4. E4. I'm then, oh, you would have maybe just missed how I was doing that. That's just those levers down here. They pull the pin out and you change that. I'm then going to go up with this auto feed lever. You may need to rock left or right with this wheel just to get it into gear. And so once that's set up, I've got my cut set up, all I need to do is just apply a little pressure on this in the form of just holding it so that it doesn't unwind, and then I can use the T button to create the cut. So I'll try and do it without blocking the shot. And so I'm getting some really nice swarf come off that. And the main thing is that I just don't want that wheel there to unwind, because it tends to sort of vibrate and unwind a little bit. So I'm going to keep some pressure on that, and I will take my finger off the T button once I feel like I'm getting probably about 2 or 3 mil away from the edge of my shoulder. Now we're going to move on to doing the knurling. So I've got this really nice and clean now, and I had the auto feed on, so I've got a perfect finish. I've adjusted my speeds, so I've turned my machine down so that it's 240, and I've changed my auto feed to a B4, so it's travelling a little bit quicker. The bearings in a knurling tool, normally there isn't any. Normally it's just a rod going through. That's why we always turn the machine down. And so you don't want the machine running at high RPMs. I've just got that loosely in there at the moment, so it's able to spin what I'm going to do is, I've got auto feed disengaged at the moment. I'm just going to turn the machine on, and I'm going to push in here, so pushing the tooling in until I start seeing the desired pattern. Now, you actually have to stop the machine to really see what it's going to look like. Okay, so I've got to hope that I can focus on there. So I'm starting to really see that the knurling is going to work well. I've started with my knurling tool 3/4 on the job, so I've got about a quarter still hanging off, maybe a little bit more. And so now that I've got that sweep, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this set up. So I've got that pressure set there. I'm going to engage the auto feed, and so that's up to make it go along the bed. Your next step is just to chamfer this edge here, and we do that after we do the knurl. So chamfer that edge there. I'm then going to flip it over, wrap it in paper. I'll do my other chamfer, and then I'll talk to you about parting off. Now that I've done my knurling, I'm going to leave the piece set up, and I'm just going to switch over and cut a 45 chamfer on this side here. So I didn't film it very well, so I've had to add it in later, but I'll explain it again now while I've got the camera rolling. These washers are vital for doing your knurling, so that the piece can push against the washers here and keep this shoulder away from the jaw of the chuck. Okay, so we'll leave them in there. I'll just do the chamfer, and then I'll show you how to part off as well. Okay, so I've pulled my job out. I've removed the washers, and another really important thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of my live center. So for when I'm parting this piece off, I want this to be able to fall down and not get caught in between the cutter and the centers here. So remove that live center, and then I'm just going to place, I've put a welding glove there for the part to fall onto, so that it doesn't get damaged as it falls down. I've got 2 grooves here, one groove for my circlip, and then I've got the 1mm gap, and then I did that other index off my plan, and that's what I'll be cutting out when I do my parting. Rightio, I'll see how this goes. Okay, so that's just fallen straight down there like that. I have been left with a little bit of a pig's tail. Okay, sorry. Hopefully that can focus now. I'm going to wrap this in paper towel, and I've learnt that we need to do at least 4 wraps of paper towel to be able to hold this. And then when I do my chamfer on this edge and I clean up that little pig's tail, I'm just going to go ever so lightly because I don't want it to spin in the jaw of the chuck. So at least 4 laps of paper towel, and then lightly do your chamfer and clean that up, and then it's done. I am going to cheat a little bit here. I'm just going to use my parting tool to come in and put that little chamfer on the edge here. Okay, so there's the finished product. like I said, about 4 wraps of paper towel, and you shouldn't get any marking at all from the jaws. One thing I did find is I was playing around doing a demo the other day, and I clamped the material in the chuck like that, and I was parting off just this piece by itself. So this was going to be the piece that fell down, and the parting process must have been a little bit too much for it, and it did cause it to slip in the jaw. So do exactly as I've done in the previous video there, where we're gripping this piece of waste in the chuck and letting the main piece fall onto a glove or whatever else that you're able to put underneath there. Just make sure it's not going to be something that gets entrapped in the machine, so something quite small.